Good day, everybody. So typically, when Nicky Case comes out with one of his games, I guess I've made it sort of a tradition to play it out. A few weeks ago, one came out that he recently came was the evolution of trust, which I think it's kind of topical for today's day and age, just as most of his stuff is. Particularly when people make accusations of fake news and things like that. We understand it's like what happens with trust and stuff like that. Because here's an interesting thing that about furries is that we don't trust the media either, and there's reasons for that. But over time, the trust in the media has started to improve over time because our history with them making it all about intercourse, and then it's like eventually they came around, and it took a long time for them to do so, probably about a good 5 years. But now we're kind of on the thing. So what is trust and how do we talk about it? And once again, I've already kind of played through this, so I'll just kind of explain sort of what's going on and show you how it works. But as with all of Nicky Case's videos that I've done on my channel, I'm going to have a little funsies with it at the end and talk about how to improve the system or how to look at the system in a different way that I think even Nicky had an original idea about, and this has to do with we'll go over it. So let's get a start. I'm gonna turn the music off because it gets a little repetitive. No offense to your musical choices. It's do 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 do. You'll that's probably the music's not necessary. So anyways, during World War I, peace broke out. It was Christmas. Picture it, Christmas, 1914, on the Western Front. Despite orders not to chillax with the enemy, British and German soldiers left their trenches, crossed no man's land, and gathered to bury their dead, exchange gifts, and play games. Meanwhile, it's 2017, the West has been at peace for decades, and wow, we suck at trust. Surveys show that over the past 40 years, fewer and fewer people say that they trust each other. So here's our puzzle. Why even in peacetime do friends become enemies? And why even in wartime do enemies become friends? I think game theory can help explain our epidemic of distrust and how we can fix it. So to understand it all is this. Let's play a game. Game of trust. You have a choice. In front of you is a machine. If you put a coin in the machine, the other player gets the other player gets 3 coins and vice versa. You both can choose to either cooperate or cheat. Don't put in a coin. Let's say the other player cheats and doesn't put in a coin. What do you do? Cheat and cooperate. So let's say the other player cheats and doesn't put in a coin. What should you do? Cheat. Exactly. Why let a mooch off of you? If you cooperate and they cheat, you lose a coin, while they gain 3. -1 versus +3. However, if you both cheat, neither of you gain or lose anything. Score 0 versus 0. Therefore, you should cheat. But let's say the other player cooperates and puts in a coin. What should you do now? Cooperate. Sure. Sure, seems like the right thing to do. Or is it? Because if you both cooperate, you both end up with a coin to gain 3. Score of +2. But if you cheat and they cooperate, you gain 3 coins at the cost of 1. +3 -1. Therefore, you should still cheat. That's our dilemma. Trust is nice, but it can let others take advantage of you or shoot you as you become unarmed out of a trench. Sometimes distrust is rational. But now, what happens if we just play this game? Then let's play for real. You'll be playing against 5 different opponents, each of them with their own game strategy. With each opponent, you will play anywhere between 3 to 7 rounds. You won't be able to know in advance, so can you trust them or can they trust you? So we're going to cooperate at first. Yeah, sure. So we both cooperated. Woohoo! All right, we're going to cooperate. Woo! Yay! Yay, we're all so happy. Alright, we're gonna cooperate. Yay! Oh, you dick. Alright, and then we got the happy person with a pink hat. And we're gonna cooperate. See, I'm being recorded right now. If I was recorded, I'd be a scummy scumbag. Alright, there we go. Yellow hat guy. We're gonna cooperate. Yay. Yellow hat. It's like the dude in the hat. Is that like the, like the guy from, what's his face? The Curious George, or, was it Curious George? I think it was Curious George. Alright. Dude with a hat. Detective. We're getting nowhere fast, dude. Alright, we did it. Your score is 38, which is pretty good. The lowest and highest possible are 7 and 49 respectively. So, who are these characters that you just played against? We have the blue guy with the blue beanie, whatever the heck that's called. The Doctor Who hat. The copycat. Hello. I start with cooperate, and afterwards I just copy whatever you do the last round. Meow. Yellow hat man is grudger. Listen, partner, I'll start cooperating and keep cooperating, but if y'all ever cheat me, I'll cheat you back till the end of tarnation. Lie with the black hat, always cheat. The strong shall eat the weak. Pink hat, always cooperate. Let's just all be friends. Detective, first I analyze you. I start. Cooperate, cheat. Cooperate, cooperate. If you cheat back, I'll act like copycat. If you never cheat back, I'll act like always cheat to exploit you. Elementary, my dear Watson. So basically his behavior changes with your behavior, but he has a set thing to start with. So now what if these players played against each other? So it's tournament time. Each character will now play against each other. That's 10 paired matches and 10 rounds each. Who do you think will get the highest total score? Think carefully about it and then place your bets. So as I said, I played this one before, but we're gonna play, I'm gonna say Copycat. I think that's who it was. I can't remember, it's been a few weeks since I played this. So I'm playing Copycat. I still remember what thing I wanted to do anyway, but so let's see, next match. So Copycat versus Always Cooperate, they get plus 20, plus 20. Copycat versus Grudger, 20-20. Copycat versus Detective, 18-18. Always Cheat versus Always Cooperate. Exploitation Central, 33 to -10. Always Cheat versus the Grudger, +3, -1. They call it they call it the live and let system. Basically, you don't shoot me, I don't shoot you, and that's how this place works a lot. Always Cheat versus Detective, +9, -3. You may still be skeptical. Most soldiers don't spontaneously peace in there, but what's so special about trench warfare? He's talking about the whole thing down there. Sorry, I skipped it. You can play it yourself as well by going to ncase.me/trust. ncase.me/trust. So the description thing will be in the description below. He's kind of going over the narrative that it's supposed to be the thing of the foundation of the whole thing, while I'm just listing off scores. Always Cooperate versus Grudger, +20, +20. Well, there's something unique about trenches. Unlike any other form of war, you have to face the same specific soldiers every day. Always Cooperate versus Detective round. Detective wins pretty handily, 21 to -1. It's a repeated game, and that makes all the difference. Grudger versus Detective rounds. Anyways, and the winner is, so basically Grudger got +7, Detective got +3. Copycat, congratulations, you placed your bets on the right horse. Copycat goes by many names: the Golden Rule, reciprocal altruism, tit for tat, or live and let live. That's why peace could emerge in trenches of World War I, when you're forced to play the same game with specific people, not just a generic enemy, over and over again. Copycat doesn't just win the battle, it wins the war. But if things change a lot when you play multiple rounds of the same game, what if we play multiple tournaments? Now that our population of players evolve over time, it's a three-step dance. 1. Play a tournament. Let all the players play against each other and tally up the scores. Eliminate the losers. Get rid of the 5 worst players. If there's a tie, pick randomly between them. 3. Reproduce the winners. Clone the 5 best players. If it's a tie, pick randomly between them. And repeat as long as you'd like. Note, you don't have to wait for people to literally die and reproduce for culture to evolve. All that's needed is that unsuccessful behavior goes away and successful behavior becomes imitated. So now, say we start the following population of players. 15 always cooperate, 5 always cheats, and 5 copycats. We'll ignore the grudger detective now. We're going to play an elimination tournament to reproduce the dance for next dozen times or so. So let's make another bet. Place your bets. So, Copycat won the one tournament. But there's a lot of all cooperate people, so the cheaters are going to have a real good time of it. And I'm going to still go with the cooperate. Makes sense, they won the tournament last time, why not again? So play the tournament. Alright, so cheaters are going to win, so eliminate the bottom 5. And the always cooperate's got it, so reproduce the top 5. The last copycat did not win, but at least they didn't do as bad as always cooperate. They got beaten up by always cheats. Those numbers are now decreased by 5. Let's go to another round. So once again, the always cooperates are getting pretty handled here. And then so we're going to eliminate the bottom 5, reproduce the top 5. So always cheats are once again doing that. Always cheats are still growing at the expense of always cooperate. So basically, so now it looks like these guys tied around, and these guys are still. And then the naive people are all gone. Now the cheaters and the copycats are left. So now that copycats are around and know that the cheaters are things because they won't take the cheating lying down, they're gonna, do that. They're gonna do this whole, what as they say, tit for tat. That's inappropriate language. So once again, removing. And as a result, Copycat inherits the earth. So in the long run, you were right. Copycat wins. Always cheats may have won in the short run, but its exploitativeness was its downfall. This reminds me of the quote: "We are punished by our sins, not for them." This result is similar, even if we put Grudger and Detective back in. So. Note that sometimes a few Grudgers may stick around, because all the players die except Grudger and Copycat and then the 2 tie. So it does seem the math of the game theory is telling us that Copycat's philosophy is do unto others as they would do unto you may not just be a moral truth, but also a mathematical truth. However, there is a problem. Look around! The world is full of total jerkwads. If Copycat is the strategy in this repeated game of trust that's so powerful that even soldiers of World War I trenches independently evolved a similar strategy called live and let live, why then are there so many untrustworthy people? What's caused our epidemic of untrust? A clue is in the sentence itself, in this repeated game of trust. So far we've only talked about change in the players. What about a change in the game? What could lead to the evolution of distrust? Well, before everything goes to heck, let's start with something nice. Here's a world filled entirely with always cooperates, except for 1 always cheat and 1 copycat. Use the button to start the sim. As you know, Copycat wins handily in the long run under our current rules. But that's under our current rules. Let's say that players play against each other for 10 rounds per match. Does Copycat still win all 7 rounds, 5 rounds, 1 rounds? Change the rounds and feel free to experiment. So we're going to stop, reset, and we're going to do 1 rounds per match. So let's go let's actually do like 20 rounds per match. We'll start like with that extreme. So basically, they're playing more games per tournament session. So basically, it sort of solidifies it when we do it. So we're gonna stop, and then we're gonna reset. So basically, before the elimination, we play. So if we play like 5 rounds instead of that, all of a sudden, copycats are not doing too well. In fact, the cheaters. No, that's no good. The cheaters always prosper in the short term. As you saw, if you don't play enough rounds, 5 or less, always cheats dominates. In 1985, when Americans were asked how many close friends they had, the most common answer was 3. In 2004, the most common answer was 0. We now have fewer friends across class, racial, economic, and political lines because we have fewer friends, period. And as you just discovered for yourself, the fewer repeat interactions there are, the more distrust will spread. No, mass media doesn't count. It must be between a two-way interaction between specific individuals. Oh, and it gets worse. There's another way to breed distrust. Here are the payoffs for the trust game. With the normal payoffs, copycat wins, but now change the both cooperate reward from +2 to +1, then click start. Even though +1 is still more punishment for both cheating, what happens? So it says copycat wins, but now change both cooperate reward from +2 to +1. So basically, we're gonna give them less of a reward for both cooperating. Even though +1 is still more punishment than the cheaters, is still more punishment than for cheating both 0. So there's still more incentive to do it. 10-round matches. So yeah, if you lower the reward for cooperating, apparently that also causes cheaters to prosper. Great. So the same thing happens. With a lower win-win reward, always cheats takes over. Game theory has 2 powerful ideas about this. The zero-sum game. This is the sadly common belief that a gain for us must come at a loss to them, and vice versa. The non-zero-sum game, this is when people make the hard effort to create a win-win solution, or at least to avoid a lose-lose. Without the non-zero-sum game, trust cannot evolve. Speaking of which, let's take a look at our third final barrier of the evolution of trust: mistakes. Mistakes. As cool as Copycat is, it has a huge fatal weakness I haven't mentioned yet. To understand the problem, let's say 2 copycats are playing against each other. Being nice players, they both get the first move. So yay! And normally, they would just play back and forth each other's kindness and sing Kumbaya until the end of time. But what if, while they were reciprocating goodness, mistakes, miscommunications, misinterpretations, accidents happen all the time in real life? But if the other person doesn't think it was an accident? Oh no, times 2. The other, being a copycat, had to retaliate. And you, being a copycat as well, will also have to retaliate. Thus, like Hatfields and McCoys, the 2 copycats will spiral into an endless cycle of vengeance that started over a single mistake long ago. Tragic, but now there are other types of players who can. Let's meet some new faces. Copy Kitten, hello. I'm like Copycat, except I cheat back only after you cheat me twice in a row. After all, the first one could have been a mistake. Simpleton, hi, I try start cooperate. If you cooperate back, I do same thing as last move, even if mistake. If you cheat back, I do opposite thing as last move, even if mistake. Random, monkey, robot, ninja, pizza, taco, lol, so I'm so random. Just plays cheats, cooperated with a 50-50 chance. So, Simpleton is like, I start to cooperate. If you cooperate, I do the same thing as the last move, even if a mistake. If you cheat back, I do the opposite thing as the last move, even if it was a mistake. So he's just like, I don't even know how to describe that behavior. I think, and this is sort of a critique, I think playing against a simpleton, like you introduced the other characters by having me play against them, so I understood sort of what they would do. I never played against simpleton and random sort of speaks for itself. Copy kitten sort of speaks for itself. It's an understood principle. So let's start with a dozen always cooperates versus our old winner, the fair copycat, and our three new characters. The forgiving copy kitten and the dull simpleton and the silly random. In each round of the matches, the players have a small chance of making a mistake. Let's say 5%. Who do you think will come out contact? What do you think? Place your bets. I'll go copy kitten. Alright, you bet copy kitten. Let's start. Not looking good for copy kitten. Nope, wasn't copy kitten. It was the simpletons. Your bet was close, but no cigar. Actually, it wasn't close. They died pretty easily. But no cigar. Simpleton wins. This is because Simpleton is actually capable of exploiting always cooperate. They both start cooperating, but if Simpleton makes a mistake and cheats, always cooperate never negates them. It'll keep cheating them. Okay. So once again, I don't really understand Simpleton too well. I don't understand you, Simpleton. The same thing as before, except instead of always cooperate, it's half full of always cheats. It's a much less forgiving, more hostile environment. Who do you think will win? This time I'll think copy kitten. Alright, so let's do the simple simulation. You bet copy kitten. Again, let's go through this a minute. You were right on the money. Copy kitten wins this time. That's surprising that with an even meaner starting population, copy kitten, a more forgiving version of copycat, was the most successful. No, copy kitten is so forgiving it doesn't even entirely wipe out copycat. It shares room. In this case, a bit of miscommunication, 5% each round, could lead to more forgiveness. But is that true on all levels of miscommunication? Use the slider below to change the amount of miscommunication. At 5%, copycat wins. What happens at 0, or 20, or 50? It only goes up to 50 because at that point every move is a coin flip. During each round, there's a 5% chance of blaming mistakes. So let's go back down to 0 for a second. We're going to start this up. And I think copycat wins this one pretty handily. Yeah. So we're gonna stop. We're gonna reset. Yep. Then if we go to like 10%, I think always cheats starts to win the more miscommunication there is. And our current president is a combination between. Oh no, I was wrong. So it's still copy kitten and copycat. So I know at some point cheaters start to win. Alright. Yeah, so at 25, the cheaters start to win. The results turn out to be something like this. At 0%, the fair copycat wins. At 1 to 9%, the forgiving copy kitten wins. At 10 to 49%, the unfair, unforgiving always cheats win. At 50%, nobody wins ever. This is why miscommunication is such an interesting barrier of trust. A little bit of it leads to forgiveness, but too much of it leads to widespread distrust. I think our modern media technology, as much as it's helped us increase communication, has increased our miscommunication much more. At last, let's experiment with all the numbers, the knobs and the sliders. Let's play in sandbox mode. So sandbox is optional. So this is where you get it. So you get populations. We're going to start off with even populations, payoff rules, and stuff like that. How many mistakes and stuff like that can be made. So my idea here is these guys over here don't get a fair shake. So my challenge to myself was, how do you make it so that people who are nice and naive and always cooperate are set up in a position where they can start to thrive? Because it kind of sucks in this like even with the forgiveness factor and stuff like that, the people who are always cooperating are always doing that. So you can do obvious things like increase the rewards for always cooperating. I guess that's something you could do. But you can also do this thing, and this thing he never really mentions. It's like, what if you both cheat? So the idea here is that the game like is just an exchange of coins between two people. But then again, it's like, so what if you have a third party involved? Like, what if it's like, well, if you cheat, then if someone knows you cheat, then we're gonna take a coin away from you. There's a third party here that is watching all these interactions, and they're gonna see now. We're gonna take one coin away from them. We're not gonna make it like, oh, you cheated, you don't get anything for doing that, because obviously, like, this would be overkill. And doesn't really reflect on real world things. Sometimes people get slapped on the wrist for cheating. But basically, if somebody cheats, we're going to take a coin away from them. We're going to say, well, we're going to take that coin away from you. We're a third party. We're going to find that out. So this one was the setup that I found. This is called a justice system interlude, is what I call it. Basically, somebody sees you cheat and they punish you a little bit for it. Now, obviously, there's got to be a reason you'd want to cheat. There's risk versus reward. So obviously there's always a way you can do that. So you can even leave it at 3-1, like, because if the other person got cheated, like, they might not know it. But let's just do it this way. So we're gonna keep the miscommunication there. So we're gonna see what happens when we play this one. So as you can see, in this setup, where you have a sort of justice system interluding, good-natured people win. So to all of you individuals who are like, well, social justice is a horrible thing, why would you ever want it? Having somebody check over to make sure if somebody's cheating or if somebody's breaking a rule to exploit the goodness in other people, that they get punished for it, is something that can lead to a better society where people who are nice people can do, better things. Of course, there's debates that could be had, that can be said. It's like, well, the real world isn't always going to be full of nice people. But, having good people to overlook things, and you can see Copy Kitten as well. So you have the forgiving Copy Kitten and the world full of nice copy kittens and people who are naive. And that's a good world to have, And to me, this is sort of an ideal. I don't know. Like, I like this setup. This is the setup I found pretty interesting. It's kind of a long video to kind of get into the setup that I kind of like, the kind of experiment that I sort of had with it. But we can also have more fun with it. So we're gonna restop. We're gonna reset, and we're gonna go. We're gonna make the. Well, let's say like cheating gets you more. Like if you succeed at it, let's try that. Like if you successfully cheat, you get more bang for your buck. But if you get caught, you still get in. So let's see what happens here. So sort of like before, the numbers seem to be proportional to, so the copycat and the copy kitten thing sort of happens. So I think that's kind of what happens in the default setup too. So it is sort of like the distance of the reward against the grain. So if we set this back down and like we punish you 2-2, and then start, it's going to be the same as the whole forgiving and the thing are going to win. The always cooperates, I think, maybe. I don't know. They're fighting it out pretty good. See, this is fascinating. Yeah, so, yep, okay, here we go. Now the always cooperates are starting to get a rise up. Anyways. So as you can see, like, the more you punish people who cheat and have evidence of people who cheat, you start to get a more sort of, It's more sort of idea as to how the exchange system works. Obviously, you can make up stuff like that, but then again, it's like you paid a coin. Let's go this route. Oops, reset. This is more like police state. These guys are gonna be like, oh yeah! Like the always cooperates are like gonna take over really hard. Actually, right now they're probably all gonna, because they're all gonna cooperate for all eternity. But yeah. So let's stop and say, what did we learn today? Game theory has shown us 3 different things in the evolution of trust. 1. In repeat interaction. Trust keeps a relationship going, but you need to have knowledge of possible future repeat interactions before trust can evolve. 2. Possible win-wins. You must be playing a non-zero-sum game. A game where it's at least possible that both players can be better off. A win-win. Miscommunication low. If the level of miscommunication is too high, trust breaks down. And when there's a bit of miscommunication, it pays to be a little more forgiving. Of course, real-world trust is affected by much more than this. There's repetition, shared values, contracts, cultural markers, blah, blah, blah. And don't forget the biggest lesson. If there's one big takeaway from this, from all the game theory, it's this. What the game is defines what the players do. Our problem today isn't that just that people are losing trusts, it's that our environment acts against the evolution of trust. This may seem cynical or naive, but we're merely products of our environment. But as game theory reminds us, we are each other's environment. In the short run, the game defines the players, but in the long run, it's us players that define the game. So do what you can do to create conditions necessary to evolve trust, build relationships, find win-wins, communicate clearly. Maybe then we can stop firing at each other and get on our own and get out of our own trenches, cross no man's lands, come together and all learn to live and let live. Evolution of Trust by Nicky Case. So yeah, very interesting game. It's kind of funny that I don't know whether it's kind of interesting. And when we were thinking about the modern politic, it's like, is Donald Trump a simpleton or is he a cheat? I don't know where he falls under that category. But he certainly his candidacy certainly did take advantage of mistrust within our own communities. And yeah, I think that, trying to figure out ways to develop trust amongst individuals has always been a goal of mine, even if they have different ideologies and political beliefs and religions and stuff like that. But as being said, the issue is also communication or interaction with people. As it's noted, we don't interact with a lot of people anymore. We talk to people through videos and stuff like that, but not as much, engagement in person as we used to. And I think that does have an issue. Or if we are engaging in person, then we're kind of behaving in this sort of theatrical manner, where it's like we're standing for, we're acting as a shoe-in for a political ideology or an idea. And I think that can do better. We can do better in that regard. It's always a tough thing, but especially when it doesn't pay the bills, especially when more cynical people or more cynical about each other is the thing that drives content sometimes. But that being said, I'm gonna get the hop out of here and turn off this music. They don't have to hear it on anymore. But I'm gonna get the hop out of here. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Nicky Case, for making another interesting, thought-provoking game. I had fun with it. I hope you have fun with it too. You can always find it at ncase.me/trust. And check out his other content, Coming Out Simulator. Was the other ones he did? Parable of Shapes was a very good one that was well known. I have a video on all these different games if you want to go look at those. I'm going to get the hop out of here, and thank you very much for watching.